Nerf blasters. I've talked about them for years now. Like 3 years worth of Nerf blasters at this point I've been yelling at. And there's always been one apparent problem with Nerf blasters. They shoot physical projectiles, and that's a good thing. Because it's more fun to shoot someone with an actual projectile that you can see hit them, rather than just pretending that it happens. I remember back in the day when we didn't have batteries for these, we would just yell and go and pretend that we were actually shooting at each other, and we never actually shot any darts at each other ever. Even Nerf wars with my mom and dad, we would just aim the blasters at each other, and even if the dart went sailing off into non-existence, which tended to happen a lot, we would still count it as a hit because we did our best, and that was the way that it was. And honestly, I love Nerf darts. But there's a really annoying problem. Picking the darts up is a titanic pain in the ass. And I don't think I'm the first person to say that. I think that there is a kind of well-known, agreement that picking up darts absolutely sucks. It's why Nerf made the dart cart, and Silly Butts made the sweeper, I think it's called. I mean, those things aren't very good. Some of them are a little bit better than others. The sweeper likes to fall apart, and the dart cart just kind of really sucks at its job unless you are in just the perfect conditions, which they're not gonna be met. The point being that picking up darts really sucks, and it is single-handedly the biggest reason why I only do like one Nerf video a week, because otherwise the picking up the darts is just too irritating for me, and I just don't feel like putting up with it. But what if we could get rid of the projectile? I mean, that was kind of the annoying part that I talked about at the very beginning of this video. But what if there was a way to effectively get rid of the projectile and still have the same amount of fun? Did you guys remember that this exists? Yes! Laser tag! Laser tag exists. It's a thing that's been around for years. It kind of got popularized back in the 1980s, and since then, laser tag has been a thing that exists. Over the years, it's gotten a lot less popular than it was back then. But that doesn't make it any less fun. And this right here is what I personally think is the best laser tag blaster that Nerf ever put out. Except for the bigger one, maybe. But I've never been able to find one of those that didn't cost an arm and a leg. I'm talking about the Delta Burst. If any of you guys know where there's a Delta Burst for sale, please let me know. This obviously isn't the Delta Burst. This here is the Alphapoint, the slightly smaller out of the two Laser Ops Pro blasters released in 2015. How good is it? Well, let's find out. So, a laser tag blaster. How do I review that? I don't know, we're gonna figure that out today. We gotta start with the design first, and then we'll figure things out from there. Oh my god. This is like my favorite design on the entire planet. It looks so cool. There's something so futuristic about it. I just want to look at it. I don't even feel like showing it to the camera. I could just, yeah, even from both sides when there's no paint because it's Hasbro. I mean, like, the design here is so good looking. Like, look at this. I don't even need to say anything. From pretty much any angle that you look at this blaster, it looks good, and that's a really good thing, because one of the most important features of a laser tag blaster is the design. Since you're not functioning with any kind of mechanical mechanisms or anything, the most important part is what it looks like and what it feels like, not so much the actual, like, the triggers or anything like that, because if it works, and that's all it needs to do. But man, they really nailed the design here, and it looks even better when you turn it on. Oh my god, look at this thing. It's freaking beautiful. But more on the functionality later. We're still talking about the design. Let's talk about the ergonomics. This blaster features a grip, and it sucks. I mean, it's almost really good, but it's designed in a very weird way. Like, it's a big grip, and it's a very nice grip for you to get your whole hand around, except for this super deep finger choil just for your middle finger. It kind of changes the way that the grip feels, and it's a really strange feeling, and I don't really know what to feel about it. The grip isn't unbearable by any means, and I would honestly say it's comfortable, but this finger choil just feels off. If it was just a straight up grip like this, it probably would have made a lot more sense, but they didn't do that. They made it like this for some reason, and it's not necessarily the worst thing ever, but it definitely isn't the best. And this actually has like a foregrip right here. There's a space for you to put your offhand. It's very small, but it gets the job done. It's actually a pretty comfortable spot to put your offhand if you don't just want to hold the blaster like this, which you really should be holding it like this because aiming this is kind of important, but if you want to put your offhand there, you can. Nobody's stopping you. It's an available space, and even if you don't want to put it there, it just looks like a cool detail anyways. So how does this thing work? Well, there's a button, there's a switch, there's a trigger, and there's this thing on the bottom which looks like a detail, but actually presses in. So what does all this stuff do? Well, first of all, let's address the switch here. The switch, when it's in the forwards position, is made for standard mode, and when you switch it to the rear position, it puts it into daylight mode. The daylight mode is exactly the same as the standard mode, but it increases the use of the IR sensor on the front and decreases your battery life by a substantial amount. So really, it's kind of worth just waiting until it's dark outside to play with one of these, or if you're taking this to like a custom laser tag arena, it's worth waiting until it's dark in the building. I don't really know. The point is, you don't really want to set it to the daytime mode unless you really just want to play a round of laser tag outside. But hey, it works, because when it's in daytime mode, even in the brightest sunlight possible, this works great. And I will address more on the functionality in just a moment. But how do you turn it on? Well, you got this big power button right here that has a very nice detail on it for you to tell that it is the power button. You push it in to turn it on. And as you saw earlier, it's got a speaker on it that has several different sound effects. Now right now you can see that there's a purple light on the top. You might be wondering what this thing is and why it keeps lighting up. I will address that in a moment. But basically, if you press this button on the bottom, it changes to red, and then changes to blue, and then changes back to purple. Purple is free-for-all mode, which means any purple blaster can shoot at any other purple blaster. Red blasters can only shoot at blue blasters, and vice versa. So this is kind of a team mode that you can select. However, if you have players with red or blue, and you choose purple, you can't shoot any red or blue players. It's either everyone is purple, or everyone is red or blue. And that's the way it's meant to be. And I think that's important so you don't have people just going rogue. On top of that, when you actually activate the game mode of this blaster, you can't switch the teams out anymore. So you're stuck with whatever team you pick. And what's really cool is the fact that the color on top remains lit up the entire time you're playing. So it's very clear who is on the blue team, who is on the red team, or everybody is purple. And that's important because you don't want to accidentally shoot your teammates. As I said before, it doesn't respond if you shoot your teammates anyway. And to demonstrate this, we have another entire blaster that we can use. So let's get into that. So first of all, I'm going to set one to the blue team and one as purple. Doesn't work. It doesn't work. If both blasters are purple, it works. And it works. If both blasters are red or blue, it doesn't work. If one blaster is red and one blaster is blue, it works. I love the way that this is implemented, and I don't think that it's been implemented better on any other Nerf branded laser tag blaster. Yeah, you've got the laser blast things that they sell right now, but they don't have this sort of fluid mechanism that can easily be toggled on and off before any game starts. And when the game turns off, or when you run out of lives, that resets back to 0. Speaking of which, let's talk about the trigger here, because we kind of can anyway. You pull it in and it's a micro switch. It's really sharp on the front for some reason, but it does pull in and it does work. Like I said at the beginning of this video, you're not going to be worrying about the trigger very much, so it's not that important whether or not the trigger is super tactile and responsive. Same goes with the button down here. It doesn't feel very good, but the only time you're going to be pressing it is to pick teams or smacking it to reload your blaster, which, as I just mentioned a second ago, this is how you actually reload. And to explain that further, we have to talk about these two little indicators on the back of the blaster right here. The top button, which looks like a lightning bolt, is how many shots you have left. So if I continuously pull the trigger, now it's flashing green, now it's yellow, now it's flashing red, and now I'm out. I cannot shoot anymore. The way you reload, you push that and now you can shoot again. There is a slight cooldown when you push this before you can shoot again, so you can't just spam this thing to constantly reload yourself, which I think is a good gameplay mechanic and requires you to think a little bit more. This one here is your health, and as you can see, I have the other blaster available. So if I start shooting this, suddenly your blaster disables, and you're out. Once your blaster is shut down, you can't just continue shooting again. You go back to the game selection screen, and this continues until all blasters are out of the game and there's only one player left standing, which I think is a pretty cool gameplay mechanic, and you just reset it as you just saw, you just press the trigger. All in all, the gameplay setup of this blaster is incredibly well done, and it's better than anything else I've seen in the same kind of general field and market. There's a reason these blasters were like $50 when they came out for 2 packs. I mean, yeah, 50 bucks for 2 of these. That was the price you were paying for these. Nowadays, they're a whole lot more, but that's to be expected because they came out in 2014. Obviously, they're not going to resell them anymore. But I think that it has to do with the IR sensor on the front, rather than it just being like a little like camera shutter thing. It detects when this is aiming directly at the 2 button press thing, whatever you want to call this, on the top. And it only works when you're aiming at it. There is a little bit of give from left to right or up and down, so it doesn't have to be exactly pointed at that, and that might just have to do with the size of the IR emitter on the front of it, but I don't really know. The point is, it works. It works when it needs to, and it doesn't work when it doesn't need to. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it stops working when you hide this thing behind another piece of furniture or something like that. So like, how do I do a firing demo on something that you can't see where the shots are going? How do I do this? I can't aim it at a target or anything. It's almost like, in order to actually do a firing demo, I would have to acquire more blasters and potentially set them up in an arrangement where I could shoot the blasters like targets. I wonder if that would work. So obviously, being a laser tag blaster, there's absolutely no mod potential here unless you are a computer genius and you're willing to open this thing up and completely rework it to make the IR sensor more sensitive, to make the IR pointer more accurate, or whatever else. But really, in the state that it's at right now, I do think that this is perfectly functional and there's no need for any form of technological modification. So what do I think of the Laser Ops Pro Alphapoint? I'm really pissed that this series didn't go any further, because as I said earlier, they included this and there was another blaster called the Delta Burst, which the only real difference was that it shot 3 rounds almost at the same time like a shotgun, and that shot them out at different angles, so you could take out more opponents at once with 1 shot out of the Delta Burst. It was also way bigger, it was about the size of the Rapid Strike, and it was based off of like a rifle style thing rather than a pistol, which is what this is based off of. But really, with those 2 blasters, you kind of had everything that you would ever need. There was no reason to make more, but what they could have done was continue like holding the series together and just let it thrive for more years. But they discontinued this so fast, it wasn't even funny. They also included these wrist straps and phone mounts that you could attach to the blasters so that you could play like iPhone games on them, but I never really found that to be worthwhile. I just thought it was infinitely more fun to just use the blasters as blasters and ignore all the app functionality that they had, because I mean, what are you gonna do with that anyways? There's really not that much that you could do with them, but that's besides the point. The point being that this thing is freaking awesome. I love this blaster. I love playing with this blaster. I love using this blaster with my family and friends and just having a fun time playing laser tag in a dedicated environment or just in a field with the sun out and everything. It works perfectly fine, and this is the only laser tag blaster I've seen that allows you to play it in the sunlight. Yes, it kills the battery more, but you can play with it. It can be done. It's a thing that you can do, which you really can't do with any other ones, especially other Nerf branded ones that are on the market right now. Yeah, this one didn't come with a holster or a vest or anything, but because of the way that it worked, you didn't need a vest or a holster. The blaster is the target, which also makes it so that you can't like hide the blaster behind cover or anything to cover yourself up. So there's no way to like protectively hide all the targets on your body while accurately shooting at everybody else, because the target is on top of the blaster above the IR emitter. So if you are exposed to shoot, you're exposed to get hit, which made it way harder to cheat. Even if you covered this up with your hand, I still found that sometimes it was able to work because the IR thing goes right through your hand like it's not even there. In my testing, I was able to shoot it through that just fine, but if I put this behind a wall or something, other blasters couldn't hit it through that. So it's really interesting how well that works, and that isn't something that I've been able to replicate with any other laser tag products like this. So the point here being, if you see one of these in the wild and it isn't corroded or anything, please pick these up, because they're the most fun laser tag blasters I've seen available on the market, and I definitely think these are worth a shot. With all that said, thank you guys for watching. And if you head down to the description, you will find an eBay listing for a Vortex Proton. So if you want this blaster, go down to the description and look for it. If it doesn't sell, I will be donating it to charity. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.